Phantasm, Shadows of Unity. Part 1, The Dragon the Storm Prologue. Echoes of a Dying Star. The motel room thrummed with a restless edge, rain slashing the window like a blade's whisper. The neon sign outside was broken, flickering in a stuttering crimson pulse that cast the room in a rhythm of light and arterial shadow. On the peeling wallpaper, the shadows of the rain-lashed blinds looked like a cage. A lean figure with unruly dark hair paced the threadbare carpet, a bundle of kinetic energy in the dank stillness. They're not just passing shadows. You saw the samples. Across the room, a sharp-eyed woman sat poised on the edge of the bed, a cheap coffee mug in hand, her skepticism a tangible shield. I saw a complex synthetic opioid with an unknown, possibly metallic vector. I saw mass hysteria. I did not see demons. The man the pacer slammed a file on the laminate table, scattering sunflower seed shells. The file was labeled in crimson, Draco Menace. Demons are just what we call scientists from the wrong side of the tracks, he said, his voice tight. He tapped a photo, a grainy night vision shot of a hollow-eyed vagrant, their skin unnaturally fissured, as if scales were trying to push through. The Greys, narcissistic, sociopathic manipulators. They don't need physical strength. They have lies, misdirection. They're carnal and their technology is like them. A violation. Ungodly. You're mixing metaphysics with biology. It's all the same. This Nix, it's not a drug, it's a vector. A nanotech phage designed to soften the beachhead. They're terraforming us, one soul at a time, starting in Chinatown. And they're not alone. The Vorlath, she recited, her tone weary. Your biomechanical enforcers. Your theories are getting baroque. Because the enemy is baroque, he countered, pulling out a second, thinner file. And they're not the only ones in the game. What about this? He tossed her a blurry image, an astronomical plate. Alpha Draconis, Thuban, 300 light years away. It's the axis, the center of their power. But the files, the old file. They mention another race, the Verthani, the lost race, the ghost story. A ghost story with a purpose, he pressed, his eyes alight. Legends say they were different. Giants, beings of immense physical power. Then some cataclysm happened. Something before the Greys, something that changed them, and we don't know what. So they died out. No, that's the point. They didn't. They chose. They forsook the flesh. They saw their own physical forms as barbaric, a weakness. They evolved. They gave up their bodies to become beings of pure mind. Not psychic in our sense, not mind readers or prophets. No, their power was scientific. They traded physical strength for psionic strength, pure focused telekinesis, the ability to manipulate matter on a molecular level. The observer put down her mug, a flicker of genuine interest in her eyes. Mind over matter, literally. And then they vanished, the pacer finished, his voice dropping. My guess? The Greys are hunting them. The ultimate sociopaths, the manipulators, trying to steal the ultimate tool from the ultimate telekinetics. It's a three-way war out there, and we're not even a speed bump. We're the pavement. The observer stood, adjusting her jacket. The only war I see is the one on the streets. This Nix is real. This gang, the Jade Serpents, is real. And the bodies are piling up. We stick to the facts we can prove. The facts, the pacer muttered, grabbing his keys, are that a race of liars is pushing a reality-bending drug while fighting a race of ghosts. Let's go see the new facts for ourselves. Act 1. The Dragon and the Storm. The fog coiled through New York City's Chinatown like a wounded dragon, its breath a cold, metallic miasma that tasted of ozone and ancient dust. It clung to the pavement, smothering the familiar scents of jasmine tea, sizzling ginger, and street vendor dumplings beneath a cloying chemical tang. Crimson lanterns, hung for the coming Lunar New Year, tried to burn through the gloom, but their light was feeble, jaundiced. Above it all, a pervasive vitreous glow from an unseen source in the sky. Thuban painted the clouds in a sickly reptilian green. On Way, 25, moved through these haunted streets, a guardian. His grace was a prayer in motion. His father's Shaolin teachings a living thing inside him. His Wugun was a small sanctuary of incense and balance, its red pillars inscribed with dragon wisdom, a bulwark against the rising tide of chaos. By day, he taught neighborhood kids the forms, the philosophy of harmony. By night, he sought his own balance, remixing the ancient strings of a guzheng with the sharp, defiant beats of hip-hop, or losing himself in the familiar 8-bit patterns of the scratched arcade machines he lovingly restored. He was a man of the ancient and the modern, but that balance was failing. His Chan meditation, once a silent communion, was now fractured by the whispers. Nix, the nanotech drug, the ungodly tech, was clawing at Chinatown's soul. Jian Wei had seen it firsthand. He'd watched his neighbors, his friends, his students surrender. First they were ghosts, hollow-eyed, their skin pale and clammy. Then came the change. The drug didn't just get them high, it rewrote them. Their skin would fissure, cracking open to reveal a glistening subdermal layer that looked like scales. Their veins pulsed with Thuban's sickly green light, and they would chant in fractured, guttural tongues to their new carnal gods. He was patrolling now, his tiger hook swords gleaming in the dim light. The curved blades, with their fierce tiger head pommels, were an heirloom from his grandfather, a grounding weight against the unreal. His wugan, with its ancestral tablets and defiant red banners, felt like a fort under siege. A heavy hand clapped his shoulder, and Jian Wei spun, his hooks halfway into a defensive block before he caught himself. Easy for Tello. Seeing ghosts, Antonio Ascenza 26 grinned, his vitality a bonfire in the cold fog. A Sicilian chef from Little Italy, he wore his white jacket over a scarred leather apron, a uniform that had seen as many Mulberry Street brawls as it had pasta boilers. His 3-section staff was strapped to his back. They're not ghosts anymore, Tonio, Jian Wei said, his voice grim. Look, he pointed into an alley. A young man, one Jian Wei recognized from the market, was rocking on his heels, his skin split open from jaw to collarbone, revealing the shimmering, fissured flesh beneath. He was scratching at the brick, hissing. Demon's curse, Antonio growled, his grin vanishing. Straight from hell. Their bond was forged in blood, uniting Chinatown and Little Italy against the gangs that had tried to bleed them both. Their rivalry was legendary, noodles versus pasta, Sholin versus Hungar, but it was a rivalry of brothers. Antonio's restaurant, La Famiglia, a haven of checkered tablecloths, sun-drenched Sicilian heirlooms, and pasta that hushed crowds, was now, like the Wugan, a fortress. Nix was creeping from Chinatown's alleys to Little Italy's trattorias. It's not random anymore, Jian Wei said, his gaze fixed on the addict. This isn't just an overdose. This is organized. It's the Jade Serpents. Antonio's eyes hardened. Jin. That Fango. The name hung in the air, heavy and corrupt. Jin, a neighborhood kid who had always wanted too much too fast. Now he was a self-styled kingpin, the only one pushing Nix, the only one who seemed to have an endless supply. He'd sold out his own people for a taste of the Grey's ungodly power. He's not just a gangster anymore, Tonio. He's a puppet. And he's got a new enforcer, the one they call Crate, the one who took out the Tong's best men, the one they said was more snake than man. He's the one, Jian Wei said. They're based out of the old cannery by the harbor. We've seen enough. The community is dying. Tonight, we cut the head off the snake. Antonio cracked his knuckles, a sharp, violent sound in the fog. Then let's go to church. Vito, get the car. A motorcycle roared to life down the street, its headlight cutting a cone through the mist. Vito Russo, Antonio's cousin, revved the engine, a half-eaten cannoli in his gloved hand. You call I haul, Tonio, Rocco, and Sal are meeting us there. They're bringing the party favors. Good, Antonio said, pulling his staff from his back. Tell 'em it's time to take out the trash. The old shipyard cannery was a carcass, picked clean by time and rust, its skeletal gantries reaching into the fog-shrouded sky. The whole place stank of diesel, dead fish, and something new, the sharp ozone and ammonia smell of Nix. Inside, in a high-backed office chair that he'd probably stolen, Jin sat, a king on a throne of garbage. He was thin, wired, his eyes burning with a manic, green-flecked energy. A pure, refined version of Nix was on a tray next to him. He wasn't just a puppet, he was a user. They're coming, a voice hissed. It was synthetic metallic like a wasp in a tin can. The voice came from the chamber's darkest corner, where a figure sat hunched, not on a chair, but in a strange, articulated metal harness. Wires and tubes snaked from the harness into his spine, pumping a viscous, glowing green fluid. This was Crate. Let them come, Jin sneered, taking a delicate sniff of the Nix. The monk and the chef, their dusty traditions are no match for this. The Greys promised me power. They promised me this city. From the shadows, Crate began to unspool. He wasn't in the harness. The harness was part of him. With a wet, shaky sound, 4 spine-mounted, prehensile metal whips like cybernetic tentacles slid from their ports. They were greasy, biomechanical, segmented like a scorpion's tail, and they hissed as they tested the air, dripping the same green fluid. The Greys promise everyone, Crate's synthesized voice whispered. the whips dancing around his head. One of them, its tip a barbed claw, gently picked up a lit cigarette from an ashtray and brought it to Crate's scarred lips. He inhaled, the cybernetics in his chest wheezing. They don't care about you, Jin. They care about the harvest. And I am the reaper. Just be ready, Jin said, trying to sound brave. They are not simple men. Crate's whips retracted, coiling around his arms like armor. Good. I'm bored of simple men. The raid was thunder and lightning. The front gate of the cannery exploded inward as Vito's van, a reinforced beast, plowed through it. Go, 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 Antonio roared, leaping out before the van even stopped. Rocco and Sal, two men who were essentially one 400-pound block of Sicilian muscle, charged out with him, their bats already swinging. They were met by a dozen Jade Serpent gangsters, armed with pipes and knives. This was Antonio's element. This was the human brawl. La Familia, he bellowed, his three-section staff a whirlwind. He was Jack Burton, a master of controlled earthly chaos. He moved like a dancer, his staff a blur, breaking bones and shattering teeth. Rocco, Sal on me, Vito, watch the van. Keep 'em busy, Tonio. We got the ground floor. Sal yelled, his bat cracking against a gangster's skull. John Way used the brawl as cover. He was Wang Chi, the one with the real mission. He moved like a shadow, flowing past the chaos, his eyes fixed on the cannery's main building. I'm going for Jin, he yelled. Antonio blocked a knife thrust with his staff, then spun, smashing the attacker's knee. Kick his ass, Fratello. We'll hold the line. Jian Wei nodded once, a silent promise, and disappeared into the darkness of the main building. The inside was a labyrinth of rust and shadows. The air was cold, thick with the smell of nicks. He moved up a metal staircase, his steps silent. He was the monk, the seeker of balance, entering the dragon's lair. He reached a large open floor, a cold storage room. Fog, thick and low, rolled off unseen dry ice packs. His breath plumed. It was quiet, too quiet. The little monk, a synthesized voice hissed from the darkness above. Jian Wei snapped his hooks from his back, their curved blades gleaming. Show yourself. Your father's dusty scrolls. Your dead gods. They can't help you here. With a crash of metal, Crate dropped from the ceiling, landing in a perfect crouch. The four cybernetic whips uncoiled from his back, fanning out, hissing and dripping. He looked like a spider, a demon of steel and corrupted flesh. This was the Street Fighter moment. Tradition versus ungodly tech. My gods are not dead, Jian Wei said, settling into a low Shaolin stance. They're about to be, Crate's synth voice laughed. Crate lunged, not with his body, but with his whips. They were impossibly fast, cracking the air like gunshots. Jian Wei didn't block, he evaded. He was a leaf in a storm, his acrobatic grace the only thing keeping him from being torn to shreds. The whips snapped, punching holes in the metal walls, tearing apart Crates. Stand still, Crate roared, his human voice cracking through the synth. You rely on your gift, but it has no discipline. No harmony, Jian Wei said, his voice calm, his breathing steady, even as a metal barb grazed his arm. Harmony? Crate laughed, and this time he lunged with his whole body, his whips a vortex of steel. The grays showed me the future. There is no harmony. There is only power. One whip snagged Jian Wei's ankle, throwing him off balance. The other three shot forward like spears, aimed at his chest. This was the test. Jian Wei exhaled. He spun with a fall, using the whip's own tension. He didn't pull against it. He flowed with it, bringing his tiger hooks up. In a lightning-fast motion, he hooked two of the whips, locking them. With his other hook, he parried the third, the screech of metal on metal echoing through the cold room. He had trapped the whips. He was inside Crate's range. Crate's eyes widened in his scarred face. He had no defense for this. Jian Wei struck, not with his hooks, but with his fist. A 1-inch punch, powered by a lifetime of Shaolin training, slammed into the central harness on Crate's chest. There was a shower of green sparks. The cybernetics wheezed. The glowing fluid sputtered and died. The whips, a moment ago a blur of lethal motion, went limp and clattered to the floor. Crate stared at the dead metal, then at Jian Wei. He had no words. Jian Wei stepped back, breathing hard, his ribs screaming from where a whip had grazed him. He was wounded, but victorious. He left Crate to his silent, powerless shame and ran for the back office, for Jin. Jian Wei stumbled into Jin's throne room, his side on fire. The office was in chaos. Jin was on his knees in front of a strange, alien-looking comms unit that was sputtering with green light. He's here, Crate failed. You promised me. Jin screamed at the machine. You promised me power. The machine let out a static-filled hiss. Then a new sound, a heavy thudding footstep from the hallway. Thud, thud, thud. The wall of the office exploded inward in a shower of plaster and splintered wood. A new figure stepped through the ruin. It was 9 feet tall, a nightmare of scaled black armor and exposed biomechanics. It wasn't Krait's carnal tech. This was something else. This was sleek, lethal alien. Its face was a mask of cold reptilian fury, a Vorlath enforcer. The Grey's real muscle. Jin looked up, his eyes wide with a mix of terror and awe. My masters, you came. The Vorlath looked down at the pathetic, kneeling human. Its contempt was a physical force. Without a word, it backhanded Jin. The human kingpin was sent flying, crashing into a file cabinet with a sickening final thud, and crumpled to the floor, silent. The enforcer completely ignored the human. Its head, a nest of black-lensed optics, swiveled and locked onto the real threat. It locked onto Jianwei. Its arm whirred, and a 3-barreled plasma cannon unfolded from its gauntlet, its barrels beginning to glow with a terrifying blue-white light. Gian! The door burst open, and Antonio, Vito, Rocco, and Sal charged in, fresh from their victory, bats and staffs ready. They stopped dead, their bravado evaporating in a cold wave of pure, pants-shitting terror. John, Antonio whispered, his eyes wide. Que cazzo? What is that? The Vorlath registered the new targets. Its cannon arm swiveled toward them. Wei saw it all in a single horrified instant. The charging weapon, his friends frozen in the doorway, Antonio, his brother, about to be incinerated. He saw the solution, the only solution. The Vorlath was standing in front of the building's massive, rotted-out warehouse window, which overlooked the dark, fog-shrouded harbor. It was his father's final lesson. Harmony is sacrifice for the whole. Antonio! Jianwei yelled, and his brother's eyes locked with his. A silent final message, I am sorry. Run. Jianwei didn't hesitate. He did the only thing a Shaolin monk would do. He bolted. He lowered his shoulder and slammed into the 9-foot-tall monster with every ounce of his chi, his training, his spirit. The monster was a wall of steel, but the tackle, aimed at its center of gravity, was perfect. The Vorlath stumbled, its plasma shot discharging into the ceiling. The momentum carried them both. They smashed, in a catastrophic explosion of glass and rotted wood, through the massive warehouse window and into the void. For a second, they were silhouetted against the fog. Then they were gone. A splash, impossibly distant, echoed from the black water below. The room was silent, save for the sound of the rain and the hissing of the broken plasma cannon. Antonio was the first to move. He ran to the shattered window, his boots crunching on the glass. He screamed his friend's name, a raw animal sound of pure loss. John! He looked down, his flashlight beam cutting the fog. Nothing, only the black icy water of the harbor. Nothing could survive that fall. Antonio, Vito said, his voice trembling. We gotta go. Cops, John. Antonio screamed again, his voice breaking. His flashlight beam caught a flicker of movement. Not in the water, on the building. Snagged on a piece of twisted, rusted rebar, about 10 feet below the window, was Jianwei's broken jade dragon pendant. It twisted slowly in the wind, its sacred ancestral form, a final silent testament. Jianwei was gone.